Hello everyone, I am Stefan from mywoodcutters.com, and in today's episode of our Clean Armor wood finishing products, I would like to introduce a brand new product that Clean Armor has put out, the Wood 716 Sealer and Finish, both in one product. Now, unlike all the other wood finishing products like the 700 interior finish and 705 exterior finish, both should be used combined with the 710 sealer. And then also the 757 professional tabletop finish also should be used combined with the 750 dedicated sealer. Now, this product is both in one, sealer and finish, so it does not require a dedicated sealer. And so that's one of the backgrounds of this product. Another one mostly is that most of the Clean Armor wood finishing products need to be applied at a certain thickness, right? In most cases that thickness is like 1 mil, not to be confused with millimeters. That 1 mil is like a thousandth of an inch. And if you apply it thinner than that, like, you know, some people, they go with their tradition of hard wax oil application where you wipe it on and then you wipe it off. That would be way too thin for Clean Armor. It then will not cure properly. Also, if you apply it too thick, you can experience a few issues and so on and so forth. So that's where a few customers have come forward and asked, you know, can't you just develop a product that cures with the UV light, just as convenient, but is easier to apply, you know. And so they have answered that request with this product. I would like to show you what we can do with it. There is one, I don't want to say downside with it. As you may know, most of the Clean Armor wood finishing products are available in different sheen levels, like matte, satin, and gloss. Now, this one only comes in one standard sheen level that is basically the same as when you use shellac or many of the hard wax oil products. There is only like one sheen level, and the sheen that you get is all in the application. You know, you can burnish it in different ways and wipe it on in different ways, and that will get you a different sheen level. Yeah, so I will bring the camera up a little bit closer so you can exactly see what I'm doing here, and I'll show you how this is being applied and what we can do with it. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. First up, a little bit closer view of the actual product, Wood 716 Wipe On Sealer Finish. And yes, as the name indicates, wipe on, it is not recommended to spray this product. So this is wipe on only. But you can use different methods, and I'm going to show you now what we can do. As with all Clean Armor products, first we need to shake the bottle before we use it, and I'm going to pour on just a little bit. That should be enough. And I take here a simple microfiber cloth, right, and try to spread it out. So in even motion with the grain. Yeah. And that is actually applied very thin. I just want here to copy the way you would apply a hard wax oil, where you wipe it on thin, and now we are going to let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then we wipe over it again with a new clean dry cloth. Okay, so I'm going to cut the video here. As I said, I want to let this sit for a couple of minutes to let the product soak into the wood, and then we're wiping it over and curing it. Okay, so that was about 2 minutes that I let this soak in, and now, as I said, I will use a dry clean cloth and simply wipe over it again. not with very hard pressure, fairly gentle actually. Wipe nicely with the grain and that's about it. So just wipe off a little bit, as you can see here. I'm putting my gloves away because I want to use them again, and now I'm going to use my curable UV light to cure this. As always, we should hold the light at least a foot above the surface. Right? I mean, with this one, to be very honest, because it is applied so thin, I'm not overly concerned when you come a little bit closer, because you know, with the normal thickness of 1 mil with all the other products, when you have really like a film of the finish on the wood, if you get too close with the light, then it can overheat a little bit and start boiling, so to speak. And that can lead to certain problems like wrinkles in the finish and so on and so forth. But with this being applied so thin, I'm not overly concerned. Okay, anyways, I'm going to continue curing this and I'll cut the video here. Okay, so I cured this for 2 minutes, maybe not even, but it is totally cured and hard and dry. So now Clean Armor, none of the Clean Armor products really require sanding in between coats. But after, especially after the first coat, we always want to sand it with some 320 grit sandpaper, just to eliminate all the little wood fibers that usually stand up when they first get wet. So I'm going to quickly over it by hand here. And just nicely along with the grain. And that is all there is to it. But we need to de-dust it, and I use my air nozzle with an air compressor attached with a couple paint brushes. So, and we apply a little bit more and do a second coat. Okay, let's see how far that will get us, but I think that should be enough. Okay. Yeah, again, nice even strokes without much pressure. Always nice, you know, along the grain. And since the first coat actually sealed the wood, I do not expect much of this finish to still soak into the wood. So I think I can continue right away. I use the other side of this cloth, which is still dry and clean. So again, without much pressure, simply wipe over it again. And that's about it. So now again, we will, well, always double check that your bottle is securely closed before you turn on the UV light, because we do not want to cure the product inside the bottle. So I'm going to cure this again for a couple minutes and then I'll be right back. So just like with the first coat, I cured this with the UV light for a couple of minutes, or maybe not even that much because it's so thin. It does not need that long, and it's totally finished and dried and cured and hard. So let me grab the camera and show you a little bit closer. So as you can see, this is like somewhere between, I would say, matte and satin finish. And it's certainly a nice open grain finish, similar as hard wax oils. And this is ready to put to use if that is what you like. Okay, and I would like to demonstrate that as well. That this is ready, because now we're going to do our ultimate test with acetone. Now, do not try that with your hard wax oil finishes, but Clean Armor withstands the harshest chemicals. You can even put a really strong paint stripper on this and it will not do anything to it. So I'm going to leave this here for about 5 minutes or so, just until this is completely evaporated, and then we will see if that has damaged the finish or not. Okay, so I let this dry up, this acetone on it. That was about 3 minutes. I fast forwarded this for you, so you didn't have to watch this for 3 minutes. But as you can see, it's completely evaporated now. I'm using simply a paper towel and wipe over it to wipe off the remaining residue. Yeah, and no harm to it, no nothing. So we show you up a little bit close again here. Yeah, don't try that with any of the hard wax oils, even with the competition ones like Westing and Jimmy Ware. Those UV light hard wax oils, they are still sensitive to chemicals and moisture. So what are we going to do next? So I'm going to send this over again very quickly, and then we want to apply this a little bit thicker, because as I showed you, this is now like still like an open grain finish, and I want to show you how we can achieve here a real nice film over it that you can then even polish if you like. So I'm going to send that again very quickly. And remove the dust. And now I'm going to use, after I get back into my gloves, Clean Armor is free of VOC. These are the volatile organic compounds, and also HAP, no HAP, hazardous air pollutants. So it does not even smell, at least to my nose. I don't smell it. But it's, by the end of the day, still a chemical, so you don't really want it on your skin. I get it on my skin, it doesn't do nothing, it doesn't irritate me or anything, but I heard from one customer before that he got in touch with it, and he had some allergic reaction to it, as we all have our allergies, I guess, to different products. The other thing is with Clean Armor, when you cure it with the UV light, it does warm up. I don't want to say heat up, but yeah, if you have it on your skin and then you expose it to the UV light, it gets warm, and that's a weird feeling. So I don't really want that, and so I'm wearing my rubber gloves. Now for this one, I'm going to use, this is like a paint applicator again, covered in a pantyhose. Okay, so what we're going to do with this is pouring on a little bit more of the product. And wipe it on with this applicator. A little bit thicker, because now the goal is to fill all the grain as much as possible with it, so it turns out more like a typical lacquer, let's say, like a lacquer polyurethane finish kind of thing. I need a little bit more for this. Okay, so with very little pressure, I'm doing nice even strokes here, and before I cure it, I will let that sit for a couple of minutes again, just for the product to self-level. And talking about self-leveling, Clean Armor is oftentimes a little bit sensitive to temperature changes, meaning lower temperature, the product gets a little bit thicker, and then it has a little bit more problems with curing, with self-leveling. And if that is the case, so the ideal temperature to work with Clean Armor is like 75 degrees and above. If you're working in colder temperatures, you can thin it down a little bit with isopropyl alcohol, but it needs to have a purity of at least 91%. I prefer 99%, but yeah. So as I said, I'm going to let this self-level. It actually starts doing that already fairly nicely. And then we are going to cure it. And as you can see, now it looks wet. That means it's also shiny, and it will cure just like that, right? So, okay, I have let this sit here to self-level, and it did do a fairly good job. And now I'm going to use my UV light to cure it. Again, that will take about 2 minutes. And I'm going to cut the video here again. Okay, so I cured it again for a couple of minutes. It's completely cured. So now basically like 10 minutes in total of work, and this is ready to put into use, whatever this may be, a shelf or a serving board for food or whatever you like, cabinet doors or cabinet parts. Let me bring you up a little bit closer. Now this is like now really like almost like a sheen, a gloss sheen level. And as with gloss, always there's one little problem to it. If you're not working in a total dust-free environment, you will have here and there a few nips. I don't know if you can see them. Yeah, there's some dust settlements and so on. It's simply not avoidable unless you're working in a complete dust-free environment. But instead of using the applicator that I just wanted to show you here with the pantyhose, you can do even a third coat, rub it on with the microfiber, and you can manipulate it there a little bit more into a more like a satin sheen level, if that's what you like. But what you also can do now is to polish it by wet sanding it, with starting, let's say, 1500 grit and go up to 6000 or even higher, but that brings it up to more like a high gloss again. But if you like it completely flat and matte, but the grain filled, then that's what you can do. And maybe I should show that to you. So let me grab my sander and see what we can do out of this with this thing now. Okay, I just set up my sander here. I just attached some 1500 grit paper, and we want to wet sand this. So I'm taking here a spray bottle, make it a little bit moist, and then we are sanding it over. That's all there is to it. Now I'm going to use a paper towel to wipe all this residue off. That's more than I expected. That's a bigger mess than I thought it would be. Now, to get this completely even, you would need to sand it a little bit longer than that. I just see there is still some highs and lows in the grain of the wood, where of course we did not reach the lower part of the grain. So yeah, and I take the camera a little bit closer to show you what I mean. You can see that here. So we need to go over. And I have to apologize at this point because I did not realize that my camera stopped recording on me just after I was in the middle. I just continued working on it and sanding on a little bit more over it again, and that's when I finally realized, oh, it doesn't record anymore. But yeah, you haven't missed all that much. I went over it again with 1500 grit one more time, and then added 3000 grit sandpaper to my sander and went over with that. And so let me show you what that looks like now. So that is a really nice flat finish. There is still a little bit of low grain left where the sander doesn't reach all the way down. So to avoid that, you probably would need to add another coat of the Clean Armor before you start sanding. But the camera picks up on these shiny low grain pieces way more than your eye really sees. I mean, to me this looks really beautiful here in nature when I look at it from this point. But this is now with 3000 grit. This is the highest grit that I actually have on wet sandpaper. If you want it more shiny, like more satin look, then you can go higher, probably 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 grit, and bring that to any sheen level you like. However, this is not necessarily for me. I am not a big fan of flat looking. I know many people like that. To me, this kind of open grain finish here is like in between satin and gloss, I would say. And this is basically my favorite. Okay, I hope you learned something and you enjoyed this video. And again, this is all about the Wood 716 Wipe-On Sealer finish. Okay, hope to see you again in another video sometime soon.